listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Red Moon Podcast. Live every single Tuesday night right here on YouTube, Facebook, soon to be Rumble, and we're rumbling across the nation with the top movie headlines.
I have no idea what he's going on
And
about.
the biggest reviews.
He's had a sip of beer and he's already gone.
I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new Sean Sebastian and oh man, was that
doing
not
like
beautiful?
a 90s wrestling theme? Is that what we're going with now?
Power bomb.
I thought it sounded like a radio
Power bomb this juice force.
radio host or something.
Brought
He's
to you
gonna
by
get 'em.
Voodoo Ranger Juice Force IPA.
Oh, hold on, I gotta get up
You did-
close.
you did-
There it
hold
is.
on, hold on.
I was still fading out the music.
Voodoo Ranger, which they've made many a good beer that we've liked, but this one, Juice Force.
I think every single one they've brought out, we've
one's
tried and
pretty
we've
good.
liked. Yeah, this is good.
This is up there with the what was it, the 1984?
1985.
or 85?
No, I think
I think it was 85.
it is 85.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
yeah.
What was Wonder Woman? Is it 84?
That's 84.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
yeah,
it's
so it's
85.
It was
Okay.
a different
Yeah.
year.
So 85, I think, might still be my favorite, but this one would be a close second. Like, this is really, I don't know. I
Well,
have to get
and
through more of this, but it's good.
Y'all aren't lying that it is going to be dangerous. If you thought last week's show was a little tipsy crazy,
No, last week he had a 5.8.
9.5.
Now we're at 9.5.
It's pretty good.
Yeah,
well,
it's really good.
you likened it to. I said it kind of tastes like a beer mimosa.
It has
It
pineapple
does.
and other citrus fruit.
It
I
is
just don't remember
very-
what all
yeah, it's
citrus
very
fruit it's brewed
citrusy.
with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is good.
That's the kind I like. You guys
is
know
good.
that. You picked a winner, Keith.
There it is.
I have-
what is it again? What's it? Juicy
Juice Force.
Juice Force. Juice Force IPA.
Okay.
I mean, it's not as hoppy as a lot of IPAs can be, so
Yeah, that's good. We got a great
Dude.
show.
yeah. We're talking about beer, but we'll
Beer.
get into movies.
I like beer.
We needed beer for this episode because there's just so much to go over.
We're jam packed to this episode. We're back to our Halloween reviews.
This is the second one this year. We started early last week.
We did. We
Yeah.
teased them last week. We're doing Halloween franchises.
Yeah.
So we're kind of cheating a little bit because the Munsters came out early and we wanted
Yeah.
to get it the night it came out, so we did it last week.
Yeah. It's still
But to
franchise,
squeeze
though.
in a newer franchise, we're going to do X and Pearl this month. X is actually next week. This week we are doing the big one on the block, Hocus Pocus 2,
Well,
along
and
with
another, which isn't
yeah.
part of the franchise
but it's a
theme.
new one
But
that
it's a
just
new
dropped.
film, yeah.
Smile, the big winner at the box office this past weekend, knocking out Bros.
You've been dying to say it.
Bros.
It's one of
Yeah.
our headlines.
Bros.
It
Well,
completely bombed.
it did.
It
Well, we're going to
bombed.
get into that too with the headlines, though. We don't want to shoot our shot too early here. So,
Well, hold on. We also had breaking news
yeah.
right at the top that that Sean had mentioned.
Oh yeah. I was
Yeah.
going to get there. I was just going to talk about the movies, and I didn't want to bounce
Go
back
ahead,
and
go
forth.
ahead.
But
Yeah.
I was just going to say we normally always have 2 reviews for Halloween, anyways, which is normal this week. But I was just going to let audiences or listeners know we won't have 2 reviews every week this month because some of the Halloween reviews will just
Coincide with our
So,
normal
yeah.
review. Yeah,
so,
Halloween ends up being one of those.
Yeah, so we kind of worked it out that way, and I think it's interesting because we still have a lot of Halloween-themed reviews this month, though.
well, and I was gonna
But
say,
back
you
to
know
the
what?
breaking news.
Real quick, I'm just gonna throw them all out there because we got Hocus Pocus 2 as
Yeah.
our Halloween review this week.
Well, that way people can watch before that we do the review, yeah.
We've got X next week. We got Halloween Ends after that, and then we're rounding out the month with Pearl.
We do have a few other regular reviews, though, because we'll have Black Adam as well at the end of the month.
And we've got, of course, Amsterdam coming up this coming weekend. That's coming out. So yeah, we've got just tons of movies all over the
So
place.
really, there's only going to be 1 week we don't have 2 reviews, so I guess I lied.
But yeah, Sean, you had told us right before the show that there was some news that dropped about Brad Pitt and allegations from Angelina
an
Jolie.
article.
Bradley.
Yeah, of course their divorce has been, or their separation
really
has been going
ugly
on for a while.
yeah.
And it's
Tumultuous.
now it's got some new gas thrown on the fire. apparently there's documentation that's come out now where he is alleged to have abused not only her but their children, and like
she said choked.
The
one of
article
their children?
mentions like he threw his arms back in a seat on a plane or something and elbowed her, and one of the kids tried to actually come to her defense, and he choked one kid and smacked the other one in the face.
Why are you laughing about this?
Because it's making me think of Bullet Plane.
Yeah, Bullet Train.
Bullet Train.
Well, it's Bullet Plane now.
Here's the thing. There are allegations. We don't know.
Yes, of
We don't
course,
know
of course.
whether he did or didn't. I'd like to hope not. But at the same time, that is serious. And if he did, then yeah, he deserves to face justice for that. But again, Angelina Jolie doesn't. I could see her, like, I don't know. It could go either way.
Yeah,
I could see either party.
Batcrap crazy anyway.
I could see either party being guilty. So I don't know who to believe on that one.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like he shot somebody on a movie set.
That's true.
That's true.
Just saying.
I was thinking, though, he probably hit this one kid and was like, and that is why no one will remember your name.
Oh, my God.
That's his, like, famous line from Troy. As Achilles.
I thought maybe he was just practicing his
no
Will
one will
Smith
remember
impression.
your name.
You know, Will Smith's
Well,
gonna
he
get.
hasn't choked anybody.
It's true, but he smacked some people.
Well, Will Smith's got his new movie, Emancipation.
he's gonna get a chance to smack all kinds of people.
Oh,
So.
he's going to be smacking all kinds of Chris Rocks.
He's not Oscar eligible, though, is he?
I don't.
No, he can win an Oscar. He just can't go to the show.
He can't go to the show.
So like he could be nominated, but I think they'll probably steer clear of him unless it's like some case where he absolutely is clearly deserving of it.
It's coming out on Apple TV Plus.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going.
It's not.
anywhere.
No, I don't either.
Coda was on Apple TV Plus too, so
And it
you
didn't
can't
win.
really.
Well, Coda did. Yeah.
Yeah, Coda
It
won some
Best
stuff.
Picture,
Yeah,
and it deserved it too.
it did. It was the better movie of
Will
last
Smith's
year.
not getting it. Like I said, unless I think it's some like just amazing and they can't deny it, they're just going to kind of turn the other way and be like,
Well, I mean, this news about Brad Pitt too. It's kind of interesting. It's like
disturbs
if he ends up, being if he is guilty of this, it's like, I mean, here's the thing: we know he struggled with alcoholism.
Yeah.
I mean, was any of this under the influence? I need to read the.
I don't know. I didn't read the full
story a little bit,
article
yeah.
because I was.
It was
talking
kind
to
of an
people,
icebreaker. We'll definitely get more.
Yeah.
More.
We got two
We'll
reviews
read
to
up
get
it.
to.
We do have two reviews.
gotta dive right in.
headlines, so it is concerning. But as we get more information on that story, we'll probably touch on it again sometime.
So let's dive right into our first review, which is, of course, no, we're making you wait for Hocus Pocus 2.
Yeah,
we know
we've got to
that
do the
was
new
what
movie on the
everybody
block.
was doing. Watch parties this weekend.
Yeah.
Such a nostalgia trip. If you really cared about the original, then you weren't pleased with this one. But little tease.
don't spoil.
So
Until we get there.
let's get to our first review,
Yeah.
the big boy on the block in the theaters, which was Smile.
This year is seeing a plethora of horror and Halloween-themed releases, and we're here to let you know about all of them. Coming in at number 1 at the box office, Smile has released a positive buzz. With critics praising it, Barbarian, and Pearl all this year, Halloween 2022 is a great time to be a fan of horror. But is Smile worthy of its praise? With a marketing campaign that a lot of people laughed at, it did manage to make people talk. And if its box office is anything to judge by, the trailer's got butts in seats. So is Smile something to laugh at? Or will it turn your smile into a shriek? Written and directed by Parker Finn, Smile follows a psychiatrist, Dr. Rose Cotter, portrayed by Sosie Bacon, working at the psychiatrist ward of a local hospital. The film begins with Rose seeing a patient who claims that she is being followed by some supernatural entity that sometimes speaks to her but mostly stares and smiles at her. Soon after the patient commits suicide while smiling in front of Rose, Rose too begins seeing this entity. As she begins to dig deeper into her patient's past, Rose struggles with whether or not she's losing her own sanity and making others believe that she is sane. Smile is not a wholly unique film. The idea of an evil entity passing from one victim to another isn't new, and horror that draws into question the protagonist's sanity or loss thereof is also tried and true. But Smile combines these two ideas in some unique ways. Bacon as Rose delivers a solid performance as a psychiatrist who knows all the logical answers to the unexplained. Where the movie excels, I think, is in its general realism. Characters and dialogue and key plot points play out as you'd expect the situation in real life, with different characters having a varied but realistic response to Rose's apparent loss of touch with reality. Through the use of sound and unique camera work, Director Finn creates scenes and an overall film that feels unnerving, adding tension and a sense of paranoia to the entire movie. Again, the film isn't perfect, however. Some scenes play a little too abstract and will come off appropriately unnerving to some and goofy to others. Likewise, while most of the film plays out believably, some instances in the plot are, while not out of the realm of possibility, a bit too convenient. Overall, however, Smile is unnerving and has equal amounts of horror and jump scares, enough for anyone looking for a good time. It doesn't reinvent the wheel, but it does keep you scared for Halloween. I give Smile 3 out of 4 stars.
3 out of 4 stars.
I did. It's like I said, it doesn't actually really reinvent much. Like I mean, it's gotten some critical praise, and I do like it. It's good. I almost actually thought 2.5, just because it doesn't do a lot that I felt like was original. But then there were moments that I feel like, as far as the horror, some of the scare stuff that were done really well. And I think what really finally convinced me to give it that extra star was I was at home alone the other night, and I went upstairs because I was downloading some stuff and I had to use the bathroom. So I went and used the bathroom and went and checked on my computer to move the files I was downloading over. And I go back and go to get something out of the kitchen to go back downstairs. And I start hearing, I thought I heard whispering. Oh. And I immediately thought of like the scene in the movie where she's laying in bed and you see like just the dark door frame of the bathroom and like the things in there saying like, come here, like whispering to her. So I'm like, I get freaked out because it's like, that's weird. And I actually still, like, I'm just listening for it, and I think I hear it again. I was like, where's that coming from? And I look down my hallway, and, like, the hall light's on, but all my rooms, like, the lights are out. So it's exactly like the movie with the, like, you just see dark rooms. Yeah. And I'm like, I told Sean during that scene, I was like, if she gets up and goes check, like, that's so stupid. But sure enough, here I am. I was like, well, I got to look and see what's going on. Yeah. So I check all my rooms, finally don't see nothing. I was like, I know there's nobody here, so I don't know what I'm hearing. I go back around to go back in the basement, and when I get to the foot of the top of the steps, I remembered that the TV was doing down there, and I was hearing, like, I was hearing Mila Kunis because I was watching that 70s show. Mila Kunis. But I was watching that 70s show, and I was like, it was that same voice. I was like, what is that? And I get to the top of the steps, I was like, oh, that's that 70s show. But I scared the crap out of myself, and I was like, well, if it left enough of an impression to creep me out, it's like, it does hit the parts that matter.
Oh, yeah, it's unnerving at times, yeah.
But that was my story, so it is creepy. Not Brandon Smile. I do think there's some aspects of it that came off a little goofy, I guess, or can come off goofy. There's some I actually really appreciated, and I don't want to spoiler alert, I guess. The very end when that, like, does the mouth thing and rips. That like, was messed up.
That was
I could see people be like, some people not liking that and be like, oh, this is weird. But like that I thought was really well done. Yeah. Like that was a level that could be goofy, but at the same time I thought was really creepy. Like I loved that.
It was definitely one of those I thought it was gonna be a love it or hate it for most people. I loved it. I thought it was enough that there was enough of a lead up to the abstract parts of the film that to me it played off well, that it wasn't ridiculous and goofy. And that's kind of how I felt. I mean, the only knock that I had against the film was really that there were a couple of scenes I thought the way things played out were realistic. I thought some of the conversations she had maybe with her fiance were a little bit dull, or a little. They didn't just have any.
There were
warmth.
Just moments that were a little bland. And that's where I was coming at with the 2.5. But then ultimately, I thought what they did paid off well enough that
it covered
it deserved more.
And same with her sibling, her sister, and her husband. I thought they were a little bit too stereotypical for what they would expect you to, portray or expect to be portrayed as, and I thought that was a little too on the nose, and I just didn't like that as much.
I felt that way too until the scene of when she confronts her sister at the front porch and explain, and then the story gets a little bit deeper, and that's when I kind of begin to understood that's why the sister is so drastically different than her, and why she's tried to kind of escape.
And I agree. I like that scene. I just wish we got a little bit more of their relationship throughout the movie, and they didn't just save it for the one scene.
I can see that.
Yep. I absolutely agree. I mean, Ultimately, I didn't think it was. I've seen, and any movie's going to do this when it comes out, especially a horror film. They're going to tout how scary it is and scary. I liked it because it wasn't too scary. It was just eerie.
Yeah.
It kind of was the same vibe as Barbarian in that sense.
I would say Barbarian was scarier.
Yeah.
But
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree, and I think more so of that had to do with
this had a
the
little
build-up of tension.
Yeah, this had some unnerving moments I really liked, but it was never like I think all out scary. It was just that stuff that kind of like.
It really
makes your hair
reminded
raise,
me
you know?
of early 2000s, like The Ring, The Grudge. I mean, in terms of the way it carried itself and it fulfilled certain story elements, it didn't, again, expand so much in depth into the relationship of the characters, which, again, was fine. That was one direction in one way to show it, but I think it was like an hour and 55 minutes.
It wasn't a very long movie, honestly.
No, it was.
for a
Hour and
horror
55
movie,
minutes? 2 hours is a long movie. I mean, usually about an hour
I
and a
don't
half
ever
at
consider
most.
anything under 2 hours long.
Well, it's kind of
Yeah,
the
I
norm
don't
now,
know.
but yeah, Barbarian wasn't quite that long. I didn't
I
feel
think it was like an hour 45.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is that, but
I mean, I'd say an hour 45 is, I think, a typical horror, yeah. So, I mean, I guess it is
I
longer
don't know.
for a
I think
horror
shorter.
film.
I think an hour and a half is about, I don't know, typically what I'm used to.
Gotcha.
But I
gotcha.
think that maybe they've been getting longer. And I think, again, you kind of go back to even Sinister or Insidious had vibes in that regard.
Yeah.
Certain elements that it's like, you didn't have to have much explanation for backstory as to, they kind of like her sister and brother-in-law poke jabs at her not making a lot of money, but her fiance clearly does because they live in a very ritzy, secluded house. But you can tell by the way that, just the decor of their place that they're living in that they're not, she's not poor by any means.
Oh no.
But you can tell that she's not the breadwinner and she loves her work. And of course that's kind of the catch of the catch 22 of the stories. It's like she's so devoted to her work that it leads her down a path that, I did like how, and that was kind of the suspension of disbelief in this film, where it strayed from the typical narrative where it's like, okay, you see this therapist who loves her work and pours herself into it and her patients, but that really had little to do with the effect that this overall being has and the scary part of the movie. It's like, no, it just ends up being a crap circumstance. That ends up, and I like that. I like the way that played out, and I like the way that played out in terms of where the movie ends and the climax of it, because it really doesn't play out in the way you think it does. It does a good job of teasing you thinking it's going one way, and then it completely ends up in the way that if you follow the breadcrumbs.
I called how it was going to end. Like I figured the way it ended was how it was going to. I thought that was the way it needed to, though. Like I liked that it did end.
Right.
Yeah.
With,
I kind of wanted. I wanted the. I'm trying not to spoil it. I wanted the cycle to continue. I thought that the end of the movie would be better if it was going to continue.
does.
Yes,
but the
and-
way that
Yeah.
that end came was a little bit different
Jarring?
than it's different than the way I thought, because I'm sitting here thinking, okay, we're going to have like a Nightmare on Elm Street kind of moment where she realizes she has the power because this is in her mind and she can fight this, but then it kind of ends up being one of those hopeless situations, and I like that it was.
See,
Agreed.
I told Brandon as soon as like they show the phone in the car still ringing, I was like, he's gonna trace it and find her,
Oh yeah.
and then it'll pursue like.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler.
Well,
we're giving
I
away
said
a little bit
spoiler.
too much.
I said spoiler alert earlier. I mean, well, and like without going any further, like I don't want to give too much, but
Yeah.
I just because they don't know who's finding who or what's going on until they see the movie. So I thought that was what I meant by like I knew like that would come about. I just didn't know in what way they were going to play it, because they do like kind of have that. Is she going to succeed? Is she not going to succeed? And I do like how they did it really well in what's the is it 1906 the Stephen King movie about the hotel room 1408.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that short story and that movie. The whole like in that movie where like he goes through that whole thing and you think he gets out, but then you find out like he's still there the whole time. Like he thinks, oh, I escaped, and he spends all the rest of his life with his family, and he has this happily ever after, and then it breaks away and you realize he never left the room. I love that. And this movie has kind of a similar thing that I really like. That was the thing about the movie, that I don't feel like there's a lot in it that was solely original, like just like having an entity that you pass from one person to another.
Yeah.
That's been done before.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it took a lot of different ideas.
It follows.
Yes.
Is even a way it's done better, I feel like, in that movie.
But the things, and even like the sound, you mentioned the sound.
Oh,
like
God.
I've seen that done in other movies. You take different tones to create that unnerving feeling. But even though all of the elements I didn't think were solely unique for this movie, I think it did utilize them in ways that are different from other movies, and I appreciate that.
I did like the way in which, kind of going back to the 1408 description, and trying not to give too much away.
Yeah.
I liked how there were definitely moments of you seeing, because she runs into how this entity comes into her life, and the way it's described is you see things that others don't. And there's definitely these moments of not, oh, it's a dream, but oh, it's a hallucination. And then there's
Or
even
you're having a psychotic break.
Yeah.
You know?
right. But then there's also moments where I felt like they played it off real well, because I kept thinking when she was in an unnerving situation or a really atypical, like odd moment, and I'm sitting here like, oh, this is just like this is something she's creating in her mind.
Right. This isn't
only
really
to
happening.
find out after a couple scenes, if they don't do a snapback of like, oh yeah, that was all in her head, it's like, oh no, that actually
really
happened.
yeah.
And the way the movie toyed on that and played that line was so well done that it benefits the end of the film that much better, because again, it leads you and sets you up for not knowing exactly how it's going to end, which is part of the brilliance of it. Definitely, I think I wouldn't say it's, it's hard because I don't think The Ring is a horror classic, but it definitely is so much of a time period at which it came out. It had its 7 days.
Yeah.
And of course there was a little theme of this in like so many days until
Smile's worth checking out. I mean, it is a solid movie, especially for the holiday.
But I could see it becoming something that for this generation,
One of those.
those type
Yeah.
of films that sticks with people who see it now, and it's young enough to leave an impression that it's like, oh wow, that is something I've never seen something like that before, because maybe they haven't checked out those older classics, and so maybe it's not anything special to people who have seen lots of movies, but for someone who is looking for a good horror flick, and this just dropped, had a great marketing campaign, and it got people in, butts in the seats, because it scored $20 million in the box office, and I think it's well deserved.
Honestly, it's been for horror, I think it's been a decent month so far. I mean, we haven't gotten real far into everything yet, but I mean, you have Barbarian, you have Smile, and I mean, there are a lot of other releases coming.
Halloween Ends, we talked about, it's coming up.
Pearl's out, and we haven't seen it, but it has gotten good reviews
the
from
new
critics.
Hellraiser comes out this month too.
Yeah,
I don't know about that.
I'm gonna check it out. I like the original, but I just actually the new Hellraiser came out tonight on Hulu.
Oh, did it?
So yeah,
Well, there you go.
yeah. So
Let's wrap it up. Let's
October
go watch
4th,
it.
yeah.
I thought it was coming out this weekend.
No, they launched it. The
Oh,
Munsters
wow.
launched on. I guess it's a streaming thing because the Munsters launched on a Tuesday on Netflix.
Probably trying to get ahead of the
The
Red Moon
crowd.
podcast.
Hell,
Yeah,
I mean,
so
they're trying to get reviewed here.
I'm
on the show.
definitely going to check out Hellraiser. I just don't have a lot of
I know.
faith, but
I saw there's a new Jeeper Creeper too.
Yeah.
Jeepers Creepers is on.
I probably won't check that out.
It's on streaming only. But
I like the original movie.
I know the
Well,
first
it's
one
funny
was good.
because
The first ones are always good,
Yeah.
and then they ruin it
here's
with
the thing:
sequels.
there were a couple franchises that we had to overlook for our Halloween season.
Oh yeah, Hellraiser was one of them. We thought
Hellraiser's
about
one
it.
of them. Jeepers Creepers. We actually
There was
reviewed it
another
last year.
one
The
we thought.
Terrifier.
Oh, Terrifier 2
Oh.
is
we
coming
considered
out.
doing that one. There are a lot of horror releases this month, so if you're a fan,
Oh no
you got
doubt.
your pick. But now we're going to move on to our next review. So
Which is not it's our Halloween pick.
it's terrifying.
But it's it definitely is. Oh gosh, here it is. None
One
other
way or another.
in our Halloween review, which is Hocus Pocus 2.
October has officially begun, and with it brings our second review in this year's Halloween franchise's theme. Last week saw the zombified remains of the Munsters franchise fall apart. This week, Disney seeks, as ever, to tap into the power of nostalgia, and is relighting the black flame candle to resurrect the Sanderson sisters in Hocus Pocus 2. With the return of Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Kathy Najimy, Hocus Pocus 2 is set in present-day Salem, 29 years after the events of the original film, reflecting the real-world amount of time that has passed since the original film's release. Directed by Anne Fletcher, whose works have included such iconic and hilarious films as Step Up, 27 Dresses, The Proposal, and Dumpling. Yeah. Based on a story from David Kirshner, who also created the story for the original film. Hocus Pocus 2 follows a new group of protagonists, 3 teenage friends, Becca, Izzy, and Cassie, played by Whitney Peake, Belissa Escobedo, and Lilia Buckingham, respectively. Cassie has become popular and estranged from Becca and Izzy, yet invites them to her upcoming 16th birthday party. But the two decline this olive branch to go practice witchcraft in the woods. Through plot and the lighting again of the black flame candle, the Sanderson sisters are revived. And this time they'll sing to us not once but twice. But our teenage protagonists are the perfect foil to the Witchley trio, and trite, lackluster chaos ensues as the Sanderson sisters learn a lesson about sisterhood. Hollywood is fond of the nostalgia, more now than ever, and they are desperate to tap into people's yearning for happier times. Released in 1993, the original Hocus Pocus bombed in cinemas and was panned by critics. But it regained life through annual airings. Audiences would come to love Hocus Pocus, cementing its place as a massive cult hit. In my opinion, the humor and tone of Hocus Pocus was simply ahead of its time. The satirical and meta type of humor of the original is a staple amongst popular blockbusters of today, especially Disney-owned properties. But Hocus Pocus 2 comes off as a cheap knockoff of the original, an equate brand Hocus Pocus. Yes, Midler, Parker, and Najimy return, and they more or less sound the parts, but they miss the mark, and the film just never truly feels akin to the original movie. The first movie has its faults, it's not perfect, but there is a reason it has become so popular. It had a solid if simple story, with likable leads and relatable characters. The Sanderson sisters were both bumbling and humorous, but they were also threatening when the story needed them to be. Chalk them up as idiot savants, but they still felt like a threat. In Hocus Pocus 2, the Sanderson sisters are pure fun, all slapstick and no substance. Their motivations are sporadic. In the original, they needed to regain their book, complete their potion, and suck the lives from the children of Salem by sunrise or perish. Hocus Pocus 2 sidesteps the whole idea of sucking the lives out of children to make the characters more likable and redeemable. Instead, they elect to elicit some spell never spoken of before now because Winnie promised she'd never use it. Until now, when evil witches killing children is no longer acceptable, so we need a new plot device. The rest of the movie plays out by rehashing old jokes in new ways, or else trying to force down the new message of how the patriarch created the Sanderson sisters and sisterhood will redeem them. Only it doesn't, and they're still evil. So why are we supposed to care about them again? Which is how I felt about the whole movie. Why should the audience care? And the answer is Fletcher and the producers know a good majority of the audiences won't care. The characters are popular and fun to root for. They were in the original, but the protagonists were also people you cared for. And while it was fun to watch the Sanderson sisters and their hijinks, you ultimately wanted them to lose. Those behind Hocus Pocus 2 only see the power of nostalgia and have made a film that reflects that. It brings back the original actresses, throws in jokes from the original, and adds a BS message that fits today's climate, and bingo, you have a moderately successful film. It won't stand the test of time, and I don't see Hocus Pocus 2 becoming the mass hit the first one became after the fact. But then again, Disney is no longer looking for staying power, just something to pad their streaming numbers. I give Hocus Pocus 2 1.5 out of 4 stars.
All right, Hocus Pocus 2. What
until you tell me
keep going.
Yeah,
it's like no forever. That's when somebody's got to stand up and start killing themselves. Just saying. All right. Gosh. Alrighty, guys.
I feel like we might get some hate from some people in this one.
I wanted to start off with us smiling to pass along how I wish I would have felt after, or how I did feel after watching this film, and that I did want to kill myself.
I think nostalgia is strong
really
with Hocus
what I
Pocus,
felt like.
And there are a lot of people that are going to watch this and because of the nostalgia be like, oh, that was fun, that was funny. But I think if you really watch it and watch the original and see the differences, you'll realize this is a subpar sequel. I'm sorry.
No, of course it is.
Well, I know that a lot of people right now that are like, oh, I loved it. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's easy to like,
Look,
be Disney and do a cookie cutter like.
Whether you're pandering for political reasons or pandering for nostalgia, it's still pandering.
Yes.
And this is exactly what this film was. There was no reason to bring back this series. They did it purely because of fandom that wanted it.
They wanted the streaming numbers.
And we on the show have cheered it on as like this could be a worthy return to a series that not only fans love, but that actually could come back with a huge force, a huge tour de force. And yet
what
they
we've always
failed on
said.
every front.
Yep. And now I'm getting more jaded to where I just don't want them to do sequels to older films anymore. But like we've always said, it really isn't that I don't want sequels to things. It's just I want them to be good. If you're going to do Top Gun it and think of a story that fits the original, that fleshes out the characters from the original and adds to the world, then yes, that makes sense. You added something great and it's a great sequel. This does not, there's no character development. The characters don't learn anything. They don't add anything at all with this movie. Like if it didn't exist, there'd be no different. Like it doesn't add to the world of Hocus Pocus.
There's really not even anything. This is on Disney, so this is a movie that's touted for children, and there's nothing of substance that a kid could take away from this movie and learn anything or apply to their lives. It's like even in the first movie, there's at least lessons to be learned about
character depth and emotion.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying in this movie, it was like I tried to pull something out of it, even with the three girls and how one of them kind of breaks away from the others because their witchery is not cool anymore, and she goes and tries to be the popular girl.
Well, it's the
and all
lesson
stuff.
is that
And
sisterhood is more important than whatever other stuff, I guess.
I know, but I don't even really feel like they nailed that at all.
They didn't at all.
And that was the thing. I couldn't find anything of substance in this.
No, I agree. I mean, my main contention with it was that they made the Sanderson sisters good girls.
Yeah.
Like that. And
they
I'm
try
sorry.
to make them sympathetic. And I'm like, they murdered children. They're no longer sympathetic.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but that defeats the whole purpose of the first movie. I mean, you even said in your review, it's like, at least when you're watching the first film, there's the quip. It's a kid's film, so there's witty quips, and they're supposed to be a likable
fun to watch,
antagonists, but they're not supposed to be
They're
so
still
liked
the
that
villains.
you cheer for them.
They're still, like I said, they're still threatening. I told you yesterday, and I want to mention it now, there are moments in the original that as a child were really creepy or that scared. Like when they first turn Zachary into a cat, and they say, break the bones and twist the back, and they're doing all that, and you hear like the crackling noises of his body morphing, and he's in pain.
When they're, I told
scared
you,
the crap
when
out of me as a kid.
When Emily Binks is sitting in the chair and they're sucking the soul out of her, and it's just like she's sitting there all innocently, like I don't know what's going on.
The scene of the cat being run over. There's the scene where they are trying to cremate the witches in the original. That used to creep me out.
Yeah.
And it's not that those are like so dark or bad that kids can't view them, but they were appropriate for the movie and dark enough to give a sense of levity. Like this is a real threat. Like they're goofy and bubbling witches and they're funny, but when it's time for them to get serious, they're scary. And there's none of that in this. There's never a moment where I'm like, they need to be worried about them returning because they're going to kill all these people. They don't even try to kill anybody but the mayor in this movie.
No,
and he was an idiot anyway.
Yeah, but in the fact that you have the store owner that's like wanting to bring them back intentionally.
Yes.
And it's just like, but I think that plays back into the part where you said they're trying to make you sympathetic towards the sisters because at the beginning it shows them as children, and you try to see, religion. Christianity is what is, and crazy religious people is
Salem.
what. Yeah,
and it was like, and that ticked me off because if you go back and watch, even when they hunt down the witches in the beginning and hang them, the way they portray the Puritans coming after them for the witchcraft is not something. Regardless of whether you agree or disagree, or they
it wasn't done satirically. It was more straightforward.
Exactly. It was just okay. They make this call, and then of course the witches have this curse on the house and the hallowed ground that they are on.
Yeah.
And I'm like sitting here thinking they didn't make it a big joke and a mockery of them somewhat having their reason for comeuppance. And I just thought that was a really poor way of describing how they went down the road they did and wandering in the forest, and then end up with this woman who, of course, just happens to have made the same sacrifice the sister, or Bette Midler's character does, Winifred does, and I just felt no connection. I mean, the moment that there's a huge complete turn for Winifred's character after she realizes what she gives up, and she immediately, and I mean literally like 10 seconds on screen, and she's immediately in a sobbing like, oh, no, I regret everything. Bring them back. And I'm like, wait, what? No, you don't get to 180 this all of a sudden and make me feel bad for you. I don't.
If you didn't know, there is an after credit scene.
Yeah.
Which basically alludes to the fact that there's going to be another Hocus Pocus.
Right.
So we're not done with this franchise.
There's a black flame candle number 2.
Number 2, yeah, I hate it. It's a BF candle
BF
number
candle
2. And I was like, that's so stupid. I hated that. And I know they foreshadowed it with the one guy, and he was like, unless there's a second candle. But I'm like, why would there be? Like, this is stupid.
Yeah.
Like, they just pulled stuff at whatever to just try to keep stringing it along, and that's the worst way to make a sequel.
There weren't all bad. At the very beginning, there were some jokes that landed.
Yeah.
You had brought this up before, Keith, when we had talked about it privately, about how in the first movie, I mean, even as little kids, I never picked up on it, but when they say a virgin has to light
Sean
the black...
mentioned it first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because Sawyer asked him.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, he did ask you when you watched the
you said he
original?
didn't.
No, they didn't ask
Okay.
what a virgin was. And
And
then
I
it's funny
I
because in
didn't
the
ask
movie,
either when I was little.
somebody asks what's a virgin.
Yes.
And it was hilarious
And I
the way
did,
they describe it.
Yeah.
Someone
know?
who's never lit a candle. Yeah,
Right.
that was
Let her
really
never
well
lit a
done.
candle, yeah.
There are moments in this, like just like the original, when the witches come across modern technology that are actually funny, and like, those parts were well done. And there are parts in the original where they come across like the paved road, and they're like, it's a black river.
Yeah.
Like just like with this, like Sean mentioned a few scenes in this.
Walgreens killed me.
That was
I
funny.
did think that was funny.
Those were well done because it was in line with the original movie. That's actually something that felt in line with their characters and how they would react. But there were so many moments where they didn't feel in line with their characters. They were just acting the way they needed to drive the point of this movie across, and it wasn't natural to who they were in the original.
Yeah.
Agreed. And we have to bring it up. I hate to say it. We wouldn't be the Red Moon Podcast if we didn't bring up the controversies that we often deem unacceptable on this show and say that, you know, obviously this is the culture war underneath everything going on. Obviously, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but obviously Disney is you know, by no means being secretive about pushing certain agendas with regards to, you know, homosexuality, transgender. They are very LGBTQ plus. We've seen it from people on their board, or not on their board, but within the higher echelons of Disney,
right,
whose sole purpose is to try to find ways to fit the agenda within any kind of property they can. No doubt it comes up front and center in a lot of parts of this film. And I think, look, I know a lot of people are going to say, and I don't want to call anybody out. There's a lot of people who would say, "Oh, well, you're looking
nitpicky,
for it.
yeah.
You're being
Or
nitpicky."
you're-
Right. But I'm sorry, you have to at some point, because that's how the culture war is won, is over subtlety. And at the end of the day, if you do not want to promote certain kinds of behavior or certain kinds of lifestyles, you have to be willing to confront it and say, I'm not gonna contribute to this, or I'm not going to applaud it. I'm not going to support it. And, you know, obviously we're a movie review podcast. Of course, we will check out a lot of these films in hopes of maybe, you know, forewarning a lot of people out there who are having second guesses or not comfortable in trusting Disney.
Yeah.
And in no doubt, you don't need to trust them in this case either. They definitely try to shoehorn some of those initiatives in there. Subtle, but still, I think, dangerous.
What's interesting? Oh, no, go ahead.
No,
I thought you were done.
that was it.
I was going to say what's interesting to me is some of the other Disney films that have really, I don't want to say capitalized, but they've definitely shoehorned in the LGBTQ stuff, like Lightyear and things like that. Those scenes were made known before the movie released, and you saw how poorly Lightyear did. And it's funny to me, but I didn't hear anything, any rumors, never read any articles, even from some of the more.
They did announce the cross-dressing scene. Like, they did say that they hired the RuPaul, like, before the movie came out.
Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't read that,
Yeah.
so I didn't see a lot of stuff about it.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things where, okay, well, I haven't heard anything about it in that regard, so we'll go ahead and sit down with the kids and watch it. Thank God my kids are young enough that they don't really notice that stuff,
Yeah.
Right.
or ask questions about it. But I do think it's kind of funny that Disney isn't bold enough to allow a teacher to explain sex in the classroom in the movie, but they're bold enough to tell my children that a little boy can be a girl, and that
By
men
just
can dress
displaying
up
it.
and men can dress up like women and be women. And I just think that's kind of ironic. It
You're
really
right.
is weird, because
You're
they
right.
sat there and they saved me from having to explain sex to my 9 and 5-year-old by
Well,
saying
you're
a
right.
virgin is a kid that hasn't lit a candle.
It's odd
but
what
then they
battles
show
they choose
yeah,
to
Yeah.
pick.
right, yeah.
And it's weird what, you know, what battles they try to wage.
I was actually
within
shocked
the culture
by
war.
the virgin, like someone who's never lit a candle before scene. Not because I thought it was handled poorly. I did think it was funny, but when it came across, I was actually just shocked that they were
did
that
it right.
mild. Yeah,
That they did it the
like
right
I was
way.
actually
Yeah.
like, oh wow, I didn't think that anymore. They would think, oh well, how do we touch this
No,
without?
we'll portray
Yeah.
it this way, and we'll let parents explain it at their own discretion.
Yeah,
And
so-
but then when it comes to other matters of gender and all this other stuff, no, we're
Well,
not going to let parents explain
and I think
that. We're just
so
gonna
much
show
of
it.
that is because again, it's about subtlety.
Yeah.
And even the cross-dressers, I mean,
trans.
the
I think it's
well, not
they're
not
drag
the trans,
queens.
the drag queens.
Yeah.
Yes, drag queens. That's the term. I
At the Halloween party.
Well, they
yes.
are. No, they are cross-dressers.
They are.
Yeah.
And I mean, the thing is this is how the left wins the game of the culture war. Is they twist and turn these, just like gender affirming care. It's not gender affirming. It's child mutilation.
Yeah.
But yet at the same time, they will try to sneak in these terms, or at least sneak in this imagery to try to make it seem normal, or even to the point where most people who are, they want people to not be aware of it. They want to just sneak it in to normalize it. And if you're not paying attention, that's how it becomes normalized. And I'm sorry, but for people who want to contest that, oh, you're just seeking this out or you're just looking for it. No. This is what they want. They don't want you to notice. And then the moment that you do notice, they say, well, why are you noticing that? Why are you bringing that up? Why is that some point of
Because
contention?
only a bad person would pay attention to
Right,
that.
because only a bigot would. That's what they want to do. They want to point the finger at you for being the one who points it out. Well, the problem is that no, they're overtly putting these things in there subtly so that they don't have to explain themselves, so that when you bring it up, you seem like you're irrational.
Yeah.
When really they're the ones who are peddling the issue to begin with. They don't even have to put that stuff in there, but they do so in, think about the drag queens. Oh, they're just portraying the Sanderson sisters in a costume contest.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought.
So
I
it's
was like,
completely
it's
okay.
Halloween, so you could. And that was one of the things I found was like with the little kids at Walgreens and the cross-dressers at the party. I thought to myself, okay, if as soon as I saw it, I'm immediately thinking, how do I explain this to my children if they ask? And it was like, well, it's Halloween. They're dressed up. They're just
Right.
pretending.
That's how you'd
or
have
whatever.
to.
But then when it shows two gay guys on a couch snuggled up eating popcorn out of each other's lap,
Watching the original
watching
movie.
the original,
Oh, they're just best friends.
Netflix and chill on
They're
the
just
couch.
a couple of bros.
Yeah, that one's a little harder to explain because they're obviously it's not two friends just sitting there together. They're snuggled up
I'd
affectionately.
snuggle with you guys.
Well, that's not gay.
It's a different kind of
It's
snuggle.
different. Yeah, it's different. It's
Go
a
ahead,
different
go
kind of
ahead.
It's
snuggle.
not gay if it's a three-way.
But I'm just saying that's like they completely eliminate the possibility of it just being Halloween and people dressed up.
Right.
So it was that one was the one that really kind of put me over the edge on it.
Well, and look, at the end of the day, I'm not anybody's parent. All I can do is I can forewarn people out there who may be concerned about it, who may even overlook it and say, "Oh, I wish I would have known." And to me, that's all I'm saying is I am going to bring attention to it. I'm going to shine a spotlight on it because
Do it.
even the littlest platform
did
that
it.
we do have, it's like, I'm sorry, it's no secret now that this is becoming a more prevalent issue within our culture, within our society. And I think above all else, I would hope that, it's sad because I would have thought 10 years ago this would have been a no-brainer, that we could have at least said, hey, we can have whatever political debate or political discussion about culture, society, wherever we're headed. But you know what? There was always an off-limits to kids. There was always a dividing line of we don't indoctrinate the kids, but it's becoming a significant and direct target.
Well, yeah, the only way for them to win the next generation is to go ahead and get the
It
kids.
is brainwashing,
Yeah.
and it is manipulation.
But it is everywhere
its
now,
worst
in a
degree.
sense that because it's funny because I know you've recently been watching Scrubs for the first time, and you were talking about like even back then like some of the differences. And I don't know why I just had the urge because I used to love the show, that 70s show. But watching it recently, I was just like, even that show, which was, the early 2000s, where, some of these morals were beginning to wane. I was really shocked rewatching some of these episodes the other night, like just how traditional certain values in that show still were. And I'm like,
Turk being a
That's-
Christian, just
well, I'm
downright-
not talking about,
I'm sorry.
I'm talking about that 70s, but yeah, same
Oh,
thing
my
with
bad, my
Scrubs.
bad, I'm sorry,
Like even
yeah.
that 70s show, I was just like, there was things that I remember that show being a little bit more raunchier, And when they would broach certain subjects, I was just like, it's crazy to me to think that, because that's not even a children's show, but there's topics that show wouldn't touch, being more for older audiences, that Hocus Pocus 2 is just like, this is for kids, this is fine.
There was somewhat a respect even back then of saying, we know generally where the culture is at.
Yeah.
And there's certain taboo subjects that again, let's face it. Those types of shows were pushing the boundaries at the time into certain territories that people then would have been like, this is the devil.
This is bad. Yeah,
right.
No, you're right.
But yet it took an inch, just that little bit of an inch, and now look where we are. And I'm not trying to be holier than thou, oh my gosh. Because look, I can watch Scrubs, I can watch, heck, I even look back, Boy Meets World is one of my favorite shows. And there is literally the last 2 seasons. It's like you have 2 guys living in an apartment with a girl. And it's like, no, they never insinuate that anything. They obviously have a love triangle that happens between them, but they never insinuate that anybody sleeps with anyone else. There's even a whole episode around Corey and Topanga and that being a point of contention, and that they wait till marriage. And
you wouldn't get that lesson anymore.
No, you wouldn't. And that's the thing, is it's like, even when they got to the edge, they knew, oh, we can't push it beyond this boundary because people will just go up in arms. There was still a line of defense. And it's like, over generations, when you continue to knock down that line of defense, it's only going to erode away more and more. And you at some point have to stand up and say, okay, it's gone too far. And I think for me, especially in the current age we live in, that moment of being too far is when you start to affect and indoctrinate the minds of children and gaslight them and manipulate them just for your own political reasons or to make yourself feel good. I mean, that's really what it is. It's these sick adults who have their own fetishes and their own fantasies, and they want to make themselves feel better in their own sick behavior.
They say it's to help others,
children.
But really it's
right.
to make themselves feel good because
Exactly.
they help. Oh, look who I helped. You didn't help anybody. You made things worse, but you feel good about yourself because you think you did something.
And I hate to say it, to bring it back to Hocus Pocus, too.
Here.
I'm as bad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
That's right. But to bring it back to Hocus Pocus 2, that really underscores the ultimate, I'm not saying that was the main purpose of the film, but sliding in those innuendos along with just the poor writing and the poor character development, it shows you that by all means, and I think one of our headlines we will discuss tonight a little bit is about, how Bros bombed at the box office. And I think it just goes to show you that at the end of the day, when you are so hell-bent on a certain narrative that you throw everything of any kind of decency out the window, you're willing to put any kind of poor writing or poor story into the film, it's going to fall flat. It's not going to be worthwhile.
When you look at this movie, you have to ask, what was the purpose of making this movie? What did you come up with some great story and think, oh, this is a great way to continue the franchise? No, you could watch this movie and immediately tell that this movie came about because they knew it had the pop culture hit that was nostalgic, and they knew they could get people to have these big parties and watch Hocus Pocus 2. They knew.
Look at it this way. How long have we been talking about the tease of this movie? Like 2 years?
Yes.
Was when it was teased?
Yes.
They've had 2 years, and this is what they produced?
Yeah.
This wasn't about
Garbage.
story first. This was, let's hit that nostalgia factor. Let's get a boost in our streamers, and we're going to make something that here's the whatever agenda we have, and we're going to form the story around that rather than creating this great story with characters we love and forming it around that. I mean, that's what I loved about the original, is you had the emotional moments between Danny and Max and him being this big brother that's kind of a goof up, but then he does care about her, and you see that throughout the movie that he cares and that you have those emotional moments. There are no emotional moments. I didn't give a crap about any of the characters in this movie.
Yep.
All it had really was just the goofy moments that, oh, this hit your nostalgia, laugh at it. And then if it wasn't that moment, it was, now here's that agenda that we want. It was one or the other, and neither one were good.
Yeah, well, part of that agenda, too, and just briefly, we did talk about it before the show, how all of the adults in the movie are kind of morons,
Idiots.
and especially the male characters in the movie. All the male characters they're non-heroic, they're non-intelligent. Yes, there's absolutely nothing of interest in the character of any of the males. The boyfriend's an idiot.
I have to do is apologize and understand that I'm part of the white patriarchal cisgender heterosexual
it felt like
normative?
Ghostbusters Answer the Call.
Oh, yes.
Is what it felt like to me. Where you're deliberately making and again, it's nothing against female heroic in characters in movies. Like, I'm all for making the female the lead and all that stuff. But when you make
We've raved about Galadriel on Rings of Power.
Well, yeah, sure. But when you
but there are actual real examples of good ones.
When you make every male character in the movie a bumbling idiot, it's like you're intentionally doing that. And I felt like that was a huge departure from the first movie, where the older brother Sam is the hero.
Yeah.
Well, even the adults in the original movie were never painted as idiots. In fact, that's why you had
they're actually partially responsible parents, but they get a spell put on them,
that's
and
the
that's
whole
the only
purpose
reason they're out of the movie.
of that song and dance number is to
Yeah.
get the adults out of the way.
Right.
And it's brilliant because it's like, okay, now the adults are out of the way.
The
we don't
kids
have to question.
step up and save the day.
In this, it's just like, oh, we had a dance number in the last one, so we have to have two in this one.
Yeah, our dad, the mayor, is an idiot, and all he cares about is a candy apple and not what his kids are doing on Halloween.
Right.
It's like, my God.
And here's the thing. I even didn't mind that story beat of a red herring of him being like the linchpin, only to find out that he has nothing to do with his legacy.
Yeah.
I thought that could have been a good story beat of saying, we're going to lead you down this trail, and he has nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
But the way they handled it was exactly that. It was like he's literally, his entire plot point
Yeah.
is after a damn candy apple.
That's it. That's it.
That's it. That's as creative as they could come up
He
with.
wanted that candy apple, man. Hey, candy apple's good.
All right, we got to move on. We got to move on to our headlines.
All
We're
right,
already
all
at
right.
9:50.
All right, let's do
This
it.
is the problem with our Halloween and our Christmas episodes when we got two reviews.
We don't always rant this much.
No.
This one just happened
Hey,
to strike
give
a
us a
nerve
good
real
movie and we
bad.
won't rant about
And,
it.
Yeah.
and not only that, but this does cover. We love the original. We grew up with it, and we reviewed
I
it.
watch it every year, man.
Absolutely.
Every year.
So does Jacob.
I was gonna say he'll probably like this one better than the original.
I would laugh if Jacob liked this because I don't think he would, though.
I can't wait to hear what his thoughts are on it.
I
Alrighty,
told
guys.
him not to watch it. I was like, Jacob, you don't like the original. Just don't even give this one. Don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't. It's not worth your time, man. We're sparing you. Please don't. Let's move into our headlines for this evening. That was it.
I finished my beer.
Yeah, me too.
I'm sad.
I'm not done yet, thankfully. I'm holding off.
It's like
Thankfully, the food that I've had tonight has helped offset.
I like it
the
so much. I
effects.
want another one, but I fear the effects of what would happen.
When you get down
should
to
do
like
it.
the last sip, it's just pure alcohol.
I thought it was
Like it
good.
sinks
I don't know.
to the
I
bottom,
I
and
loved
it's
it.
just
It's
all-
good.
I honestly, I'll be honest.
Wow.
We got
I-
what the headlines and our
Let's do
unique
it.
segment.
Let's go. Let's go.
You want to do the second one?
Let's bust through these. Let's
Yeah,
go.
all right.
I thought you were talking about let's go with the second beer.
No.
I'll do it.
He's not ready. He
No
can't do it.
way.
Y'all be sleeping here
No.
tonight. Hey, y'all work from home. Y'all can just work here.
I got to get home.
Red Boot headquarters.
I gotta
I'm
get
gonna take
home.
them home with me and drink one there. Man, I really like that beer.
It is good. I mean, save them for next week if you.
Sean, you watch. He's gonna be on. He's
I'm
gonna be
just
calling in
not-
sick
no.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
He ain't going in.
I don't need to call in sick.
All right, let's talk about it. First headline, the big one on the block, guys. Bruce Willis. Rumors
big
that
one?
he is signing over his likeness for deep fake.
I mean, it's his decision. I don't care.
Would you see the
Yes,
I don't-
that's the one I linked to,
Yeah, yeah.
Sean. Yeah.
the one about maybe he didn't?
well,
Yeah.
it's not quite.
Yeah,
There's
it's not in the
question
bag
there.
yet.
I didn't mean that like assholishly. I just meant that.
I like that. I like the adverb you put on that.
Yeah. Well, I
Holy-
just because it sounded
holily-
like a jerk. Like I don't
holy.
care. But the thing is, it's if an actor wants to sign away their likeness so that company can make movies with them forever. I mean, that's their decision. Like,
So, well, the article that we have linked below specifically talks about how Deep Cake, the company,
Yeah.
I know.
that's good. They created a very realistic likeness of Bruce Willis
Yeah.
that he approved. Apparently, back in I think it was 2019, that he had seen this and liked it. Well, since of course his diagnosis of I don't want to get it wrong because I'm thinking aphasia.
It's aphasia.
Not
Okay, it
aphasia.
is. No,
Yeah.
what's
Yeah, yeah,
alopecia?
alopecia is the other one.
That's the hair loss.
Yeah, alopecia
Aphasia
is
loss
yeah.
of-
Alopecia is what makes you hit people on stage.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the disease.
See, I don't know another beer.
I have a cousin that has that. So
Sorry, I wasn't trying to offend them.
Does he hit people on
Oh,
stages?
snap.
Yes. Brandon doesn't need another beer at all.
We've lost control.
The alcohol
Sean's
content in these
gone.
beers was 9.5.
Sean is
so-
gone. I forgot to hit pause.
Bruce Willis has aphasia, correct? Aphasia.
Oh my gosh. We can't drink on the show anymore.
Okay. You just don't need beers that have a near
I'm not even done
10%
yet.
alcohol content. So what is the point of this conversation?
No.
Aphasia, Bruce
okay.
Willis, he's deep cake.
After his diagnosis
Yes.
with aphasia. Oh, gosh.
Man, you got me crying.
Deep cake. Man, I want some deep cake right now.
Oh, man.
Oh, some turtle mousse.
Rewatch that on the way home. Have a wreck.
Chocolate mousse, man. Oh, man.
Back on topic.
Oh, so good.
Bruce Willis, deep cake, aphasia.
Gosh, we're never going to get through this.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we got 2 more segments.
All I know is that apparently they came out and jumped the gun and said that they had rights to his likeness, that he signed off on it.
Right.
Yeah.
His estate came back and
They
said,
said, no.
Not yet.
Legally, you do not. And then they reached out for Cinema Blend, I guess, who this article was by.
Yeah.
Reach out and they've not heard back, or
Yeah.
the lawyers have reached out and they have not heard from Deep Cake saying like, no, there is no. No clarification
And
as to whether or
obviously,
not
if
this is.
they don't actually have the rights, then yeah, they shouldn't use it. But if he did sign them away, I mean, that's on him. If that's what he really wanted, and if they have the rights, then I don't have a problem with that. Where I have a problem is when they choose like James Dean, who's dead and can't give permission. It's like that's a little different. But if someone now who's an actor wants
Is
to
it, though?
sign a,
Well, that's what I was
I mean, 'cause
thinking.
here's the
if
thing.
the person is gone and they can't really give, and then I'm kind of like, well, whoever owns
if
The
they owns the
estate?
estate, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
the
If they-
estate, okay.
Here's the
if
thing: we
the-
wouldn't have Lord of the Rings
That-
without
yeah,
Christopher
exactly.
Tolkien.
And that's
Exactly.
fine, but to the estate, I guess they did if they're
They
doing
sold
it.
the rights to
Okay,
Amazon,
Well, I
so-
guess I'm talking about the James Dean situation. I
No,
guess
yeah.
if his estate did it, then I don't care. I guess it only bothers me if they did
do it without your permission
Yeah.
is when it becomes an issue. But
Well, and even still, it's still the moral question of portraying someone's likeness that was real. And is this becoming a point of contention where it's like you're kind of crossing the uncanny valley of
should or shouldn't you?
Right.
Yeah.
that is the moral question. And I mean,
to me,
don't know,
someone like,
thoughts?
and I'm not saying Bruce Willis isn't James Dean. When Bruce Willis is gone, it'll be a little bit different. But it's kind of like, to me, you've got this iconic persona, celebrity that, it's like, let their legacy. I mean, you don't have a legacy if you're still here. Your
That's
legacy
true.
is after you're gone, and that's when I'm kind of like, just let them have the legacy
No,
of being this great actor. Like, why try to
I agree
bring
with
them
that.
back? I just don't
But I
understand
feel like
it.
here's the
if
thing:
he
we don't
himself said
know.
yes.
But we
Well-
don't know if that's part of the agreement. If
Yeah.
part of this was more so them jumping the gun, but saying we're wanting to guarantee that we have his likeness for future projects when because
When he's gone?
Well,
It's like, when you die, we want to use
he
your
already
face.
is gone.
Here's my-
I mean,
yeah.
I hate to
I
say
mean, he's
it, but
gone from acting, but he's not dead.
But they could use if they
But
want
he
to make
can't
a movie.
he's retired.
Yeah.
He can't. He's not making any more
Say
movies.
he's
I
still
get it.
alive,
I
but they
get
want to
it.
make a movie with Bruce Willis. He'd be like, "Yeah, deep fake me. That's fine." And coming from,
But he can't say it.
yeah, he can't now.
Oh man,
That's terrible.
But it's like if he signed off on it, then that's what he wanted. But again, I do agree that's like let someone's work, because at that point, what do you do with new act? Like that's the point. Is old actors they retire, they pass on, and then you have new actors that come in and become iconic. And if we get stuck in the past,
What happens when you have a new actor that comes in and you realize, as big as they get, oh wait, Harry Styles hasn't been real this whole time. He's fake.
what?
Yeah. What happens then?
well,
I mean, listen to his name. It's a fake name.
I wasn't
Just
I
saying.
Has to
wasn't
be.
going there. That's a little bit more conspiracy theorist. But I get it.
My
Yeah.
point is what happens when you have a huge star come out on the scene,
Yeah.
and they're just you just see them in movies,
What if
and
they're
you're
just
like,
completely
they
fake?
could.
and then you realize
could.
after a
Have
while,
you seen Unreal Engine 5?
Yeah.
I'm
What
just
if it's
saying.
just a fake person, a completely
It could
made-up
be.
person?
Well, and that's the thing. We've already seen these
And now we
AI
have
generated.
actors out of jobs. Damn.
Not really. There's still got to be somebody who voices them, but maybe AI
Well,
will be
voice
Maybe
actors
generating
the
a voice.
AI voiced Val Kilmer.
Yeah. Oh crap. We have
But-
all fake actors.
But that was his voice.
But it was
they-
an AI.
But it was made out of
Right.
like thousands of different
Samples.
They
yeah.
just took his voice and they
They could
Yeah.
theoretically sample a bunch of
They could
thousands
sample
of
a
voices
couple
and
pieces of
create.
voices
they could
together and
create
create
a
somebody
whole
else.
fake person.
They've deep faked Trump. with his without his actual voice.
Oh, they've deepfaked everybody.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
But
that's crazy.
that's the
Juggled
crazy
all the
thing.
videos.
The craziest part is when you deepfake somebody that's not real. Other than knowing whether or not, when you see them on screen, they're as real as you can tell.
True.
And until you see them in an interview or say, "Oh yeah," the creators come out and say, "No, that's just an AI. It's just a fake
That's
generated."
crazy.
What happens when you have actors like that's literally the replacement of actors?
But is it wrong? Walmart doesn't have cashiers anymore. You just,
McDonald's has kiosks.
I'm
Hollywood
just saying.
has deepfake.
No.
If Hollywood now goes to all digital actors, like, I get. It is. It's fun. It's fun to think about these things.
It's odd.
It is odd. It's scary to think that one day you could just be replaced by a robot.
I don't think it's happening in our lifetime, but
No.
I think it's slowly
It's not
getting
even
there.
robot. It's just digital.
Well, I just
like
use.
it's not even.
I know. I just use robot as a.
I
As a
get it.
stand-in.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah.
But no, it's
still
it correlates because it's like it's replacing real people.
Yeah.
And so when you're digitally creating something that looks real and your eye can't tell the difference, if it seems lifelike and real on screen,
It's kind of funny though, because see, the elites like Hollywood would be like, the Ford assembly line. It's like, oh, my job got replaced by a robot. Well, that's too bad for you. But it's like now when it's them, it's like, how do they feel about it? Like,
But here's the other problem. Or not problem, but really, can you say it's replacing people? You're still going to have
you still
artists
have to have.
who
It's
have
just-
to create these things.
Well, and again, progress versus because you are shifting jobs now. It's like, okay, we don't need actors, but you need the people that can create the digital actors. You need people that can mix the voices to create their voices. It's just you won't have stars
Still
anymore.
gotta have
Now you need the
writers to
highest
write what they're gonna
technicians.
say.
Right.
Wow.
Until the AI is doing it all.
This is just crazy.
That's why the technical behind-the-scene jobs are always the safest, because you're always going to need those people that make it happen.
They're also the cheapest.
They are. That's
Because sadly they're not as valued. Because again, the
Because
reason
they're not on-
Bruce
they're not the
Willis
face. They're not
and the
seen.
reason the deep fake contention is that Bruce Willis has a name and he has fame and a legacy. He already has that built on the fact that this is the reason they want to create the deep fake to begin with. They still see value in the property that is Bruce Willis, the actor. So the real question here is it a moral question of should we allow that to happen, that they create these realistic portrayals of previous actors or even actors now who have lost their ability? Say Judi Dench, who's wanted to retire from acting. Or even I would say, Christopher Lee, who has passed away. And it's like, but was a brilliant actor in his day. It's like when you want to bring back these iconic roles and maybe pay homage to them, is it paying homage, or is it to the point of saying
It's getting paid?
another point. James Earl Jones has officially
retired as the voice of Darth Vader.
Yeah.
But in a lot of stuff, they've just been the same thing with Val Kilmer digitally recreating it for stuff, and it's like, and Grant, I'm sure he's had to sign off on that. They can't just use his voice without permission, I'm sure. But again, it's like, okay, well, he retired, but do we need him anymore? We'll just recreate Darth Vader through all these digital means. And because they used Hayden Christensen's voice in Obi-Wan, but then they used James Earl Jones, all these recordings, and they took what he said and digitally created the Darth Vader. It's really well done. But again, it goes back to, is that okay? Is that creepy? It is a lot to think about.
Too much for this episode. I can tell you that right now.
We could dive into bros now, probably.
People
This
don't
is-
realize
yeah.
this whole time
we
are fake.
We
are AI.
Red
We're
Moon
not here.
faked it, yeah.
Nope.
The Harry Styles one, that one's got me because I'm just like, has anybody really ever met Harry Styles? Like in
Olivia
person?
Wilde has.
I'm just saying, has she?
She's had his penis inside her.
Has she? She got deep
Let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
I'm just like, they were
Let's talk
just
about
like
a different type of penis.
looking at magazines and was like, what hairstyle should we give him? Like, I don't know, but we got his name, Harry Styles.
Hey, he's a Marvel now.
All right, let's go.
I think we've beaten this dead horse.
Yeah, well, I don't know. We've opened up a lot of can of worms. We got nowhere.
We
with
have
it.
no answers for it,
Brian
really.
Guerin just opened up another can of
What did
worms.
he
He said,
say?
what if they deep fake Queen Elizabeth?
Dude.
What if she comes back and
Eternal
rules?
monarch.
We got King Charles
Yes.
III now. Okay,
What if they-
guys?
He's gonna make sure they deep fake
He's
him.
gonna, he'll be a
He'll
failure.
be deep. He'll be talking to
Here's
himself.
the
He's gonna
thing,
be a
though.
failure.
He's not gonna live as long as
No.
her. He's
Well, no,
gonna have.
he's
short
already
term.
on his
It's
way out the
humanly
door.
impossible.
Yeah.
Unless he has a deep fake of himself.
Ooh.
then he can live as long as he wants.
I'm just saying, like
Charles.
he's not gonna live into his 90s. He's gonna have a short term, so it don't matter.
I think it's creepy.
Wow.
And I
can
don't
be.
morally. I think there is something. There's something odd there. I don't think I can say because again, there's no soul. There's no.
Yes,
There's
yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing real about it. It is lifelike, but it's not a real life. It's not a real human person. And I think there's something wrong about conveying a life, and a conscience without it really existing. I mean, imitation is a poor form. I mean, you can get really, really close, but it doesn't mean it's the real thing.
And that's
Yeah.
And,
right
and
now,
I think
here's the
that's
thing,
the.
though.
And
In
here's
the
I
future-
think that's fine when you're talking in terms of acting and you're talking in terms of play. But when you're talking in terms of it becoming a form of communication or what, I mean, I think this is what brilliantly the movie Her dives into,
yeah.
and it really shows you the complications and the convoluted nature of when you completely
again,
go into that world of.
I guess
of
an overarching
artificial
thing this
intelligence.
episode
Yeah.
is the degradation of society. But again, like, what does it do to society when we're all disconnected and the only type of contact we have with anything is digital? It's like,
Well,
that's
again,
not a
no,
real...
not just digital, artificial.
Yeah, artificial.
It's not
Yeah.
real. I mean, there has to become a point when you, as a human race, say there is only so far that you can go with something artificial before you say this is
And
not
at what
reality.
point do we consider it no longer live action? When if every actor on screen is a digital creation, it's just an animated film, like The
Lion
Lion
King.
Yes, and at that point, it's like, are you making films anymore because you're just digitally recreating everything?
But you'd have to redefine film.
Well, it already has.
I know, because now they're not even
Everything
shot on
is
film
ones and
anymore. It's
zeros.
digital.
True.
So
I guess,
we don't.
yeah.
It's a colloquial term.
Yeah, we
now.
still call them films, but they're no longer shot on film.
All right, now let's move on to bros. We've
Yeah.
opened up a can of worms there. We're just talking in circles. Leave us your thoughts at redmoonproductions.com. Email us, RMPodcast
Email.
at redmoonproductions.com. Alrighty, let's talk about it. Bros completely bombed
Broskies, it
at the
did.
box office.
We called it.
We didn't call it. I think we were hesitant about even saying anything
We didn't
about
call
it.
it live. You were correct, but
Right.
when we walked out of the theater, you specifically said it's
Nobody's
going
going
to
to see that
Yeah.
movie.
Well, and here, the reason why I didn't bring it up on the show is because secretly I thought even if it didn't bomb, it was going to be literally worse because it was going to be people going out and supporting it solely because of the type of film it is. And thankfully, because of the film it is, people just didn't go and see it, which I'm thankful for.
People would rather see smiling people kill themselves
Yeah.
than a
Here's
movie
the thing.
about homosexuals.
The point I made before the show is whether the movie is good or not, it could be
I think
an
I spelled
extremely
completely wrong. How do you spell completely? I'm sorry. I just want to make sure.
COMPLETELY.
Okay, I got
You
it.
got it right.
I got it right.
Okay, so anyways,
Sorry.
no, you're fine. My point is, maybe the movie is really well made and really good, like they're saying, but it's not a subject or subject matter that a lot of audience people want to see. So even if you make a movie that all 2% of the population of the LGBTQ community went and saw, it's still going to underperform because that's not enough percentage of audience members.
I think they have 12%.
Okay, 12%. If all 12 and 100% of that 12% went and saw the movie, it's still not going to make enough money to justify the existence. You have to have a wider audience. And that's with any type of business. You have to cater to a large amount of people to make a profit.
And I'm sorry, but look no further than Billy Eichner, one of the main characters in the film, who's been promoting this and has been spearheading the project from its start. And the way he quickly divulged from defending it for its merits of, oh, it's a really good film, it's high quality made, and I just love the irony of turning to Rotten Tomatoes and Cinema Score for it's just gotten rave reviews and all these places.
Well, even
I'm
the
like,
excuse
for
of,
one,
well, it's out during October and there's horror movies out, so of course people are going to go see that over our film.
no, yeah. Well, then you pick a different release date. But anyways, it's like Cinema Score is going to be an A+ because the only people going to see it are the ones who are even remotely interested in it, which happens to be only $4.8 million worth, which happens to be probably on 3,300
I didn't look
plus
at the number. Is
screens.
4.8 really all it made?
That's
the
all
whole
it made.
weekend?
Yeah.
That is terrible.
Awful. I mean, and over
I
3,300
guarantee you
screens.
the budget had to be more than that.
Oh,
I don't know any movie.
It was like $20 million. I think it was $25, $30 million for the film budget, and then another 30 a total, it was like $55 million complete for the
For
marketing.
a rom-com, you needed that much money?
Well, because again, and this, I'm telling you,
They wanted to lose money.
well,
Sorry.
No. They have an agenda.
I know. Yes, exactly.
wanted
It wasn't
to push
about
an agenda.
This wasn't about making money.
No. And I think the issue here really lies in the fact that you have this person who's saying, oh, no, go out and support the film. It's really a good movie. I think you're going to like it if you see it. To immediately then, over the course of 24 hours, just devolving into, you're just homophobic and you're a bigot if you don't want to go see it.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so you went from standing on the merits of the film to just completely alienating your audience even more.
Yeah.
Instead of taking the evidence of nobody seeing the film as part and parcel, maybe the reason why you should maybe look in the mirror and say, we just didn't make a good film, or we didn't make a film that people wanted to see.
Yep.
Instead of doing that, you're going to now criticize any chance of any audience going to see this film.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you just can't come up with the idea that, oh, maybe I made a film that nobody wanted to see because it's based on a subject matter that is absolutely completely out of sorts with what we think is the cultural norm. Because there's tons of people, Judd Apatow, who produced this film, and tons in Hollywood who patted him on the back the whole journey through making this film of, oh, this is great. Yes, go for it. Slay, queen. And I'm just sorry, but they want to just support this
Slay,
garbage
queen.
for the sake of virtue signaling and saying, no, we have a message to spread. Well, yeah, and that message is not going to anybody, but you're preaching to the choir. I mean, you think about it, and even the cities that they listed, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and New York were the three biggest cities. All blue,
Yep.
heavily left-leaning, LGBTQ-friendly, AI+.
Safe spaces.
All these places are just literally boasting about how much they support that community, and they celebrate it. And yet, you're surprised that it didn't reach anywhere else? It has nothing to do with it being middle America or Southern America's problem. It has to do with, no, you're only focusing on an audience that is so minuscule that it only attracted $4.8 million of revenue. That's abysmal.
But you made a good point when we were chatting about this throughout the week that not even people from that community went to see it.
No.
It would have made, like I said, if all 100% of population went and saw it, it would have made more than 4.8 million.
Yes.
They went and saw Smile instead.
That's exactly right.
I just had this when we went and saw Smile, and I was getting my ticket because I don't do it often, but I got popcorn and Coke, and there was a group of people that I guess they didn't look at any movies ahead of time. They just wanted to go see a movie. So the guy selling tickets was telling them all the movies showing and what the movies were, because he was like, there's Smile, it's a horror movie, there's this, there's that. And I didn't hear this. I'm just saying, I'm imagining this because if you said it, like these people from Kentucky, like him getting to Bros and be like, what's Bros? Oh, it's a gay rom-com. Like, I just freaking saying that I can just imagine, people from Kentucky being like, what the
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it says a lot to just, again, the Hollywood elites and that culture of how much they are in a bubble. And they don't think outside. They're never challenged anymore. They are sincerely not challenged by actually having to think outside the box. And so they create something that is completely over the top, that literally is nothing but degrading to most people who would not support any of this kind of behavior. But then they celebrate it in this film, and they wonder why people aren't going to see it. And yet, I also think the problem has to do with just the idiocy of, thinking that your community is so it's so juvenile and immature, and to the point of thinking that they're going to support you no matter what. I mean, it really is a slap in the face to any person of the gay community who thinks that they should live this way, because and here's the thing, part of the story, I think, is him being honest about the gay community, especially homosexual men. But the problem is it doesn't come as a rebuke to that type of behavior. It comes as a celebration of it. And instead of having a critical eye, you do nothing but promote and accept this behavior and just say, no, we don't want to be monogamous. We just want to sleep around and have a bunch of gay sex. And you're surprised that people don't want to show up and support a kind of movie like that?
I mean,
and it's just it's such a detachment from reality. It can only be done in Hollywood.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
it can only be done from a cesspool that would allow something like this to exist. They would be the only ones championing it, and they're surprised that nobody shows up to the box office for it in support of it. I'm sorry, it's just it's ridiculous, and it's like, no, you're the bigot, Billy Eichner. You're the one who wants to go out there and shove your message down people's metaphorical throats, and you want to act like that we don't have any kind of decency to say, no, this is ridiculous, it's sick, and you're perverted. And you need to know that you're perverted, and no, I'm not going to celebrate it, and I'm not going to be prideful about it. It's sick. Simple
I'm
as
as
that.
mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Sorry.
I
had to go on.
Don't take this the wrong way. I'm
Go
not
ahead.
defending this movie or the message that it's trying to spread. I will say, though, towards what you just said, I feel like there is a community out there that has probably been waiting for a film like this.
Yeah.
And whether I agree with their lifestyle or not, I'm not necessarily saying that they don't deserve a film like this. There's plenty of movies with heterosexual couples that sleep around. And we joked about Grey's Anatomy over next door, how that's all just horny doctors.
We mentioned
That's what Keith
Scrubs.
said.
I mean, there's
tons of sleeping
I'm
around
not
in
saying
that,
I don't want to give off the vibe that we're saying it's okay as long as it's
sleeping around's
heterosexual
never-
sex.
sleeping around's never okay
but
either way.
But homosexual is not
It's
okay.
the perversion either way.
The problem, exactly. It's the immorality either way. What I have the problem with the most is I have no respect at all for the creators of this film after hearing them admit to, well, maybe we released the film at the wrong time and people are going to see Halloween films instead, and then immediately rolling over and saying, no, it's just because 95% of the country are bigots.
Right.
And they're not going to give this movie a chance.
Mad because that's
and
not,
that's exactly right. That's pointing the blame on everyone else for not seeing your movie. And again, I can't speak to whether it's a funny movie, whether it's a good movie. It has subject matter that I am not going to agree with either way. When this movie becomes available that I can watch it for free and not have to pay money for it, I will probably watch it just to see
I'm not watching
just to
this.
see.
I
But I'm
refuse
just
to
like
watch
the first time I see two guys kiss, I'm probably going to turn it off because it makes me sick.
That's the first scene in the
that's
movie.
the first scene in the movie.
They have a gay
I won't
orgy.
be. Oh God. Well, I won't be watching it very long. I'm just saying that saves me time. I can watch Dune again for like the 40th time.
How many times have you watched Dune?
Like at least like once a week. So it's just one of those things where it's like I don't want to. I definitely want to teeter on the side of it being a bad film and not necessarily saying that it.
Think about it this way. We've had Brokeback Mountain.
Yes.
We've had Philadelphia.
Yes.
We've had
Both
Birdcage.
are good.
We've had
movies.
several movies that have come out with gay-centric characters.
Yes.
That are very flamboyant, that flaunt it. They have no. I mean, you can't watch anything today that is made without a gay character in it.
Yeah.
It goes to the core of what is being promoted, and I hope to God this is not a movie that is ahead of its time, and this is where we're headed.
Yeah.
I hope this is not some kind of content that we celebrate, but rather it's a scope in which people realize, no, this is at some point, again, a cesspool of just literal perversion that you can only go to an nth degree before a society of any kind of moral sense says we can't reward this. Or it just doesn't, it would have given me less hope in humanity had this been number 1 or 2 at the box office. Because it would have told me we now as a culture are so morally degraded that we are willing to go and see this rom-com about hell, go watch Pornhub if that's what you're into. You can find this anywhere. But to get a story centered around it to kind of add in some flavor of not humility. There is no humility in it. It's just straight up pornographic. Like, okay, we made a story so that you don't just have the sex scenes that poured up. There's now a story surrounding it. I mean, I really do. I don't know how else to describe it other than we've had other movies with homosexual characters, and everything today has it, that people still watch, and they will either glance at it or they'll ignore it or they'll overlook it.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
For the greater story that is. I mean, but when it is the entire message of the movie, I think it does catch people by surprise of like, okay, I can't really just say that I'm in complete agreement with this. I think it gives everybody pause to the extent of saying, I don't really live this way. I don't support this lifestyle. This is not conducive to a better society, a better culture. This is just gluttonous to the nth degree.
No,
and
I
at some
agree.
point, I think people, even in the most moral degraded sense, kind of finally say, I mean, like, God, like, what the hell are we looking at or watching? And I mean, it's like, look, Sodom and Gomorrah was completely demolished, rightfully so.
Yeah.
But you got to think there were some people who were just like, I got to get the hell out of this.
Yeah.
And no, they just
Rahab.
stayed there. But yeah. So I don't know. I'm just,
No,
at the end of the day,
I agree completely. I just want to point out the fact that we feel that way about even if it was a heterosexual movie that started out with a mass orgy, we'd be
Yes.
saying the same
I mean,
thing.
Brandon
I don't want to
hated-
say that we're just
Thor's mention of orgy so many times, so I mean,
yeah.
I brought that up because,
Yeah.
Well, that was
Russell
just a
Crowe,
stale
that's-
joke.
I could, yeah.
No, I know what
What
you're
about
saying.
the orgy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Story time.
Yeah, we need to move on. Big
All right.
time.
All right.
We're getting late. We're getting long in the tooth. We got to do it.
One of our Twitch people saw the movie in theaters.
It's
story
that's the comment.
Where the
Saw the movie in
podcast
theaters.
members
Oh, bros.
tell their stories.
I would assume that's what they're talking about.
Well, before we move on to story time,
I just
that's what they said.
I just saw the movie in theaters. That's it.
all they said.
That's all they said.
Well, tell us about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you
What's
think?
your opinion?
Are you
Yeah.
a bro?
Are you talking about Bros? Are you talking about
Hocus Pocus 2 wasn't in
No,
theaters.
it wasn't in theaters.
Smile?
You talking about Smile?
When was the comment
I
made?
am curious.
Are they writing?
I'm waiting.
Okay. Well, we'll see.
Let's just do story time.
Let's talk
Yeah, I
about
mean,
story
if
time.
they
and
respond,
yeah.
then we'll get back
talk
to it.
about
Yeah,
it.
definitely.
All right, story time. Man, really switching gears on this one. Going a complete 180.
Yeah,
What
we
was your
just-
childhood dream job?
I wanted to make gay movies.
I'm gonna be honest. I wish I had another beer now. That whole conversation took my buzz away.
Yep.
I want
I don't
one.
know.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Man, I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah, you killed my
Sucked
buzz.
the air out
Let's
of the
just-
room.
Brandon killed my buzz.
Let's just
Man.
go to
I wanted
story
to be
time.
a chef.
A chef?
I love
You could.
to cook. I do love to cook.
What would be your dish that you would at your restaurant you would be like, you should try the
Oh, I don't
Fill
know.
in the blank.
I like to cook everything. I didn't become a chef, so I don't have a
but
signature dish.
but when you
It'd
wanted
probably
to be a
something
chef, you had to
smoked.
have something.
No, as a kid in elementary school, I didn't know.
You
the
were just
first
like, I
thing
just wanna be a chef.
wanted
I don't know how to cook.
I
I
like
don't-
to eat. Yeah.
Okay.
But no, but yeah, when I wanted to be a cook, and then I wanted to be an artist. I used to be really good at drawing in elementary school, and I mean, I could still doodle, but it's not something I continued doing. So I'm not Nathan or Brad. Like, they are phenomenal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I told
Nobody
Brandon.
knows who Nathan or Brad are.
Yeah, you
I mean, I
don't
know
know.
we
But we
all
mentioned
know
them
they
on
draw
this-
better than Keith.
We've shown Brad's drawings on the show before.
Yes, we
so,
have.
Yeah.
We've never shown Nathan's. Maybe
Well,
we
do
should
we have his?
Well, we have
It's a little.
Nathan's.
It's a little messed up. I can't. Yeah.
Wait. Oh, he's got it. Oh,
Yeah.
that's a better one right there.
Yeah.
Mine's all
Margaret's
mine's all-
Monsters.
It's
you can
falling
listen to
apart.
that on the Red Moon podcast, by the way.
That's
Yes,
right.
you can.
We got the full
Um,
feature length on our website.
But those were two of the bigger ones I
Beatles
wanted to do.
Doodles.
Beatles do. Oh yeah, yeah.
That's Brad's. Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that the name? Am I
Beatles Doodles? Yeah, that's Brad.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still, hopefully. Yeah.
But
Go
yeah,
there to his Facebook page. And
those
check
were
it
those
out.
were both things I enjoyed, and I mean, because I did, like, I would take like our spelling test in elementary school. I would, like, when I was done, I would just flip it over and draw, and then all the teachers would be like, "Look how good he is," blah blah blah. I did the Mayflower for our school play. I drew this huge Mayflower that they put on this little step thing that the kids playing Pilgrims stood on the steps, and it looked like they were on the Mayflower.
Wow.
And then I don't know, like, why, like, I guess I lost interest in that, and I wanted to get into the medical field in the high school, and that didn't really pan out.
Oh,
the way I
just real
thought it
quick
would, but-
breaking. It looks like Scooby Doo,
Yeah.
the new movie on Amazon. Velma is officially.
Yeah, I saw
gay.
that earlier
Okay,
today.
I just wanted to mention
Yeah.
that. After talking about bros, I just figured
Yeah.
everything's gay now.
Yeah.
I think after the show I'm gonna be gay.
You've got like an RSS feed on your.
yeah, I
That's just
get-
gay
get it on
stuff
my-
that comes out.
They've been trying to
Bros.
do that for a hot minute, and I guess they finally were able to accomplish it.
Well, like I said, everything's got to have a gay character.
James Gunn said the script he wrote for the live action had Velma gay, and they wouldn't let him do it. So now they will, I guess.
Oh, of course. Because we're at that point in history now.
But yeah, those were the things I wanted to be growing up.
Sorry, I ruined it with more gay news.
Wow.
We
Sean-
can't get Brandon beer. He goes on rants, man.
I mean, his watch just rant.
I know.
It just ranted. His watch is just giving him stuff to talk about.
Did we ever get a response? They probably hate us now. They've tuned us out.
That's fine.
Yeah.
What about you, Sean?
When I was a kid, I told y'all next door I wanted to be a marine biologist first. And I was just like fascinated with the ocean and sharks. I love sharks. Shark Week sucks, but sharks are cool.
Yeah.
And like Shark Week just sucks now.
It used to be awesome.
It used to be awesome, and that's what fueled
Before it was popular, it used to be awesome.
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Now it used to fuel my desire to want to be a marine biologist. Then it was when I got into photography, I was like, okay, well, I can still do that, but kind of
Not in the
be
ocean.
a photographer, so I can do oceanography. So I'll go underwater and I'll take pictures of these amazing creatures. And then I realized I was scared to death of the ocean, and that career path just was not possible because I will not go
to the depths of the ocean.
I won't even barely go past my waist
Yep.
in the ocean because I am terrified of the ocean.
Oh yeah, dude.
I don't know what is underneath me. I don't know what I'm stepping on. I don't know what is around me.
You don't know what shark's going to grab you?
I don't. At any given moment, it could be the last moment I have on Earth.
Could be the Meg.
It could be the Meg, and that movie didn't help.
Could be James Cameron coming up from the Marianas Trench.
Yeah. So that career path just went completely out of the water. Then
down there, man.
Yeah. Then it moved to like, okay, well, we can stay on land, and I can be like a National Geographic photographer. And then I realized you had to be extremely good at photography. You had to pretty much not have a family or be married because you have to travel like 9 months out of the year and go all over the world. And I was just like, yeah, that's not. I'd rather have a family. So, and I wasn't that great at photography. So it was,
It was like, I'm not that good at photography. I guess I'll get
now
married
I work at
and
a call
have
center.
kids.
So
Brandon, what did you want to do as a child?
Y'all are going to find this surprising.
Maybe.
The first dream job I had actually fits our gay theme. I wanted to be a firefighter.
firefighters aren't gay.
No, but there's always like gay people have dreams about firefighters.
I guess.
It's because of the hoses.
That water pressure. I don't know why. I shouldn't have went down that road.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a firefighter.
Yeah.
And
you're not one.
I'm not.
My cousin is.
Because I'm weak and I'm puny. But yeah, that was my first dream job. And then, of course, as I got a little older, I wanted to be a video game maker.
Yeah.
Is what I called it.
I went through that one too.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was into, I remember getting Myst for the first time on the PC.
Oh my god.
Actually, it was before
Yes.
Myst. Funny enough, the first one we played was Riven.
Riven, yeah.
And I remember my parents getting us Riven for Christmas.
On a floppy disk.
Oh, no, this was CDs.
You had
CD-ROM. Oh, yeah. And I mean, this was like big deal because it was like 5 discs and realistic graphics. And I remember we had a problem with, it was probably just our PC couldn't run it. But then like we had to take it back because I guess we thought there was something wrong with the game. And we ended up getting Myst since it was the first one in the series. And I remember even playing through that, and I was blown away by it. And from that point on, of course, I got hooked with having from the Sega Genesis growing up, and then the PlayStation being my next system. And I've been a PlayStation fanboy since then, and I wanted to be a video game maker, and that kind of devolved because I don't know. I guess because technology isn't where it is today. I mean, you could get a very great, decent computer that you could learn to code and create, software and maybe even video games on. As a kid, I couldn't really do that, but the next best thing was to tell dramatic stories. And I remember going to see Spider-Man on my 11th. It was around my 11th birthday, and it was in theaters. And the original Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire. And I remember seeing that, and it was kind of, I liken it to, I say it was my first adult movie. Like, because before then I would just see like Pokemon or Tarzan, cartoons that came out in theaters. That was the first movie I went and saw. It was live action, like adult
It wasn't geared
it
specifically
wasn't
towards children.
exactly. It was a preteen, movie.
Sure.
And teenager, I'm like preteen. I'm like, I was blown away by it, and I was like, I want to make movies. I was like, it enthralled me, and I was like, that was the first film I saw where I was like, I want to make movies. And from then on, I was just obsessed with watching movies, the special features behind movies, and hey, there's still a dream out there, still chasing after it. I do this podcast every week with you guys, thankfully, and I love doing this. I do work in local news and TV, so I do use my talents, but it's not obviously to the full extent of hopefully one day.
No, you're still
that.
gathering talent too,
Yeah,
and gathering
yeah.
knowledge from working that job that you're going to use later. So
That's the hope.
yeah.
One day.
Absolutely.
Hashtag one day.
Hashtag one day.
Always hashtag one day.
Yep.
Alrighty, guys, we're real close to being on time. Actually,
think, yeah.
we ran long, but I think we're actually going to make it if we wrap it up really quick.
Okay, we're done.
All right, that's it. Alrighty, guys, thank y'all so much for tuning in to the Red Moon Podcast. We love having you all here every week. Still want to know what the guy watched, if he watched Bros, and what he thought of it.
No response.
He probably heard our cesspool talk and was like, I'm out.
I'm out.
I hate these guys.
Yep.
Sorry, you know where we stand. Not going to apologize for it. Alrighty, guys, thank you all so much.
Sorry, I'm not going to apologize.
Just like Billy Eichner. If you don't like our show, you're a bigot. Yeah. That's how I'm going to play it.
I actually find Billy Eichner funny sometimes. It's just
He is. That's the
like
the
the Billy on
problem.
the Street stuff. There's tons of times I've thought Billy on the Street has been hilarious. So
I'll be honest. That's I think my biggest issue with the gay community. So much of who you are is wrapped up in that identity. That used to be. That's the problem. Is there is no disconnect. That used to be you fighting for the rights to just be known that, hey, let me live my life in this way. And even I don't care. I'm not coming at it from a political angle. You at least have some validity of just saying, I just want to do my own thing, leave me alone. But no, it's all about celebration, pride, and let me live this life. And no, you have to celebrate it too. That's the argument that it's become. And I think that's where Billy Eichner and many of his ilk, especially with a movie like Bros, are losing that battleground, is because you realize really quickly the source of where that vitriol comes from, which is just this little kid immaturity of, no, you're being mean to me. You should go watch my movie, or you're just a big meanie. It's like, okay, call me all the names you want. It doesn't mean that I'm any closer to aligning with you on any kind of values, because you're not displaying any that I want, that I seek virtue in. I'm sorry.
Well, I think the box office tally shows that nobody cares.
Yeah, and no amount of like yelling and being belligerent towards people, I think, is going to get their butts in the seats. But until next time,
we missed the mark.
Well, all right. We missed it. Well, and real quick, all right, email us rmpodcast@redmoonproductions.com. And that's the old-fashioned way. Of course, you can always search for us on social. Red Moon Book, Red Moon Tweet, Red Moon Pics, and search for Red Moon Productions on YouTube and Rumble. Find us there. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Until next time, I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
And
I still want beer.
You get it. Oh, he crushed that can.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.